So, hi everyone. My name is Erin. I'm originally from South Africa, but I've been living in Portugal for the past 5 years. And it's my first time taking part in this project. So, I was asked to say a few words about Chanukah and about the 25 project. So, this year, it's almost a little bit bittersweet to be celebrating 8 long nights and days of Chanukah, Festival of Lights, after all the darkness that we faced in the world. First, it was the fires in Australia, and then the fires in the Amazon. And as we're all aware, the coronavirus, making this year a hard one for all of us. um, a lot of us are very overwhelmed, and it feels like we don't have time to celebrate the good that we do have in our lives. Um, this situation is one that can cause us to be sad and fall into depression, and rightfully so. So, realistically, how can we be expected to celebrate this so called miracle of Hanukkah? And on a very literal note, Hanukkah is crazy in the wintertime, especially for those of us up here in the northern wintertime. The days are quite short and the nights are quite long, and we're almost in a state of perpetual darkness. So, how can we realistically be happy and truly celebrate something about light when we're always surrounded by the dark? So, Hanukkah is the time where we celebrate a special miracle, the miracle of finding that tiny amount of oil, just enough to make a tiny little bit of light. Think about it. The entire Beit HaMikdash was in shambles. The whole thing was destroyed, smashed into tiny little bits of pieces. And we get all excited over a tiny point where we say, Nes Gadol, the great miracle. Hayasham Hayapo. So how can this be? Shouldn't we have been focused on how Gadol, or big, the destruction was? Or why are we making such a big deal over some tiny goodness when there's yet so much that needs to be repaired in the world? So for me, this is the lesson that we learned from Hanukkah. Yes, we live in a world that's dark. A lot of the world is broken into pieces right now, and we've yet to fix this world. But just as we light the menorah one wick at a time, one candle at a time, one on the first night, and then with each night, gradually and slowly, we too can dispel the darkness that we face in the world one light at a time. Each and every one of us has this light within us, and it just takes one small candle to light up a room. So too can your light guide each one of us through this tough time and allow us to grow and grow together. And the 25er project is the perfect opportunity for this. And I'm really happy that I decided to take part. And hopefully together this year and in the following years, as young Jews, we'll be able to keep providing and showing our lights. And Chag Sameach to all.
Woo! That was fire. That was fire. No pun intended. That was awesome. Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thanks for sharing. Okay. Next, we have a very special guest, actually, who's going to be sharing some words with us and also telling us about an awesome initiative that he's running. He's actually an amazing partner of our project and big reason why we have been able to become international. And welcome, I think his title is the president of the World Union of Jewish Students. President, am I right? President? Yeah. President of the World Union of Jewish Students. Good. He has an amazing opportunity to really connect with world Jewry on an even broader level than we are, and really help world Jewry on a college campus provide Judaism on their campuses. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome in Jonathan Braun to share some words of Hanukkah with us and tell us about his awesome initiative coming up real soon.
Thank you. First of all, really thank you for helping us and inviting us to your initiative, which was absolutely a blast, I think, for a lot of our students. I will just like to share a little something that I learned a few days ago, which is there is this dispute in the halachot on the laws of Hanukkah between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, the two big common fights that we know of. And the fight is if you're too poor to have enough candles for the whole Hanukkah, what should you do? Should you have one that lasts the official time needed on the first day, like one full candle? Or should you split it into two and light on the 2 days, but less time than what's supposed to be the requested time? And so, of course, it seems like a very silly dispute between the two huge houses of learning, but the full story behind it is more of like the vision of Judaism that you can have. There is one vision that is like, okay, I'm going to be a Jew and I'm going to do everything that is requested or I believe in, but stay in my bubble of Jewish vision, and I'm protecting myself from the outside world. I'm staying inside, not sharing my light into two. I'm not splitting my candle with anyone else. But what I do, I'm staying protected of like with all my traditions and if the tradition says we need to do A, we do A, and if it says we need to do B, we do B. But I'm not going to split it around. And the other vision is, no, you should split it around. You should go out to the world and say, I'm willing to take out a bit of my tradition and adapt to the 21st century or to the civilization we live in. And the Jewish religion, and I don't like to call it a religion because I think it's a bit more complex than that, but is this whole consensus between keeping our traditions and being able to open up on the world and adapt and evolve to our current generations. And so I think that's also the whole like message of Chanukah, that the whole spiel behind it is like Pirsum Hanes, sharing the light, sharing the story. The purpose of the Jewish people is not to stay inside your Jewish community and say, oh, wonderful, we're all doing good. If a Jew lacks some food, then a Jew will get some, but then that's it. No, the whole idea is to go out in the world and make it better, be the light to not only for Jewish students, but for students in general, to make, I know a lot of students, for example, on campuses face anti-Semitism, but will not only fight for anti-Semitism, but for discrimination in general, which is the exact example of like what I'm trying to say. So I think this is what strikes me most in Chanukah, that we're able so much, especially as students, to go out there and create something better, create interactions, create support, create help. And I think especially in time of COVID, number of students who helped their Jewish community, but also counterparts who were in difficult times by providing food packages, delivery of medication, and so many other stuff. So yeah, don't be afraid to go out of your small Jewish bubble. And I know it's not easy all the time to say, hey, I'm Jewish and I'm proud of it on a campus space or with your non-Jewish friends. But yeah, own it a bit and don't be afraid to share your light and your vision of the world to others. So that's my small word on Chanukah. And I just wanted to add, which is more advertising than a word, but so WUJS is the World Union of Jewish Students, and we represent a lot of students all around the world. And each year in December, we usually have a Congress. And this Congress is happening in Jerusalem, where you have the most, I would say, potential leaders of Jewish campuses coming together to meet like really high-end speakers and a lot of different, talking on a lot of different topics, from Zionism, Jewish life, to climate change, gender equality, whatever the issue that is important to Jewish students in general, it's there. And this year, because it's online, we're opening up that opportunity to the grand public, if that makes sense. And so I would love to invite all of you to join that. I will send after I speak, so you can listen to other people as well, a link in the chat, but pretty much we would be very happy to have you join this opportunity. There will be a space a bit like this to meet over hundreds of students from different countries, so from South Africa to Latin America, and really enjoy that fun part also of a conference that you usually get, but also a lot of great speakers, people from politics side, people like Hillel Neuer from the UN, or Omer Yankelevich from the Ministry of Diaspora, but also a bit more fun sessions like movie projections, debates, workshops. So yeah, I would love to have you all. And if you register quick enough, I don't know if we have so much left, would you also receive a small package at home with like some merch and cool things to make the conference a bit more interactive. So yeah, I would love to invite you. You can look it up in the links I will send. And thank you all for letting me speak.
Woo! Thanks, Jonathan. Awesome. Okay, Congress should be awesome. Okay, for our next speaker, we are calling on a two-time 25er from, also Jonathan was from Switzerland, so we just hit that part of the world, but we'll take it back to the US here with Tyler Schwartz from the University of Illinois.
Oh, I didn't realize I was speaking.
Oh.
I can think of something to speak. I just taught a class of fourth graders. I can try to adapt that to this audience if you want.
Connecting to our inner child. I love that.
Let me give me another few minutes.
We'll come back to you. Okay. He was just coming right at us. We had to call him. Okay. Well, we'll take it to southern United States, to Gainesville, Florida, and the University of Florida. My friend Sam Clark.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone. Happy Hanukkah. It's awesome to meet so many of you from different parts of the world. It's really exciting and to see a lot of familiar faces. Just a quick idea I want to share, which I'm borrowing from NCSY Portland, Jacob Bach, my Portland guy, is that at the end of Al Hanisim, we say something very interesting. We say, thank you, God, for the miracles you did for our forefathers, and also for the miracles that you do, Bayamim Hahem Bizman Hazeh, also for the miracles that God does for us in these days, in our days. And looking around, as a lot of people have pointed out, there's not exactly a lot of miracles going around, It's kind of a crazy time, not the miracles we're looking for. So what does it mean that there are miracles happening in our days? And I think we have to look at what miracle happened, So what was the miracle? We had one jug of oil and it lasted for 8 days. And that was the miracle. But what exactly happened? How did that miracle occur? We know that the miracle was really only for 7 days because one jug of oil lasting for 1 day is doing its job. So the miracle and the celebration, the holiday of Hanukkah, should only be for really 7 days, the extra 7 days that the oil lasted. But the reason that Hanukkah is 8 days and we celebrate it for 8 nights with 8 menorah candles is because the fact that they had the courage, the faith, the ability to look at what they had and they say, yes, we only have one jug of oil, but so what? Doesn't matter if you are a Torah mentor, a 25 for 25er who's been here for so many years, you're just starting and you're just learning Aleph. If you know Aleph, you have a responsibility to teach Aleph. You have a responsibility to do what you can do. And that's what happened. The Maccabees, they looked at that one jug of oil and they said, okay, they didn't plan for a miracle. They didn't hope for a miracle. They couldn't have imagined it to happen in their wildest dreams. But they took that one jug of oil and they lit it. And they had no clue that a whole miracle, a whole transformation was about to occur because of their small action. And that's what the miracles that are happening in our days are. There are so many opportunities in our life where we look around and there are small jugs, small moments, small opportunities to choose between good and wrong, but not really good and wrong, but between doing something or being passive and letting nothing happen because who will notice? It's one jug. No one's going to miss it. No one's planning for that one jug to turn into a monumental, world-renowned phenomenon. But when we take that opportunity to see that one jug, to step up and light it against all odds just because it's the right thing to do, and maybe, just maybe, we can have that same opportunity because it's Bayamim Hahem Bizman Hazeh. God is with us in our days, making miracles for us, just like he did for our forefathers. But we've got to light that jug of oil. We got to find it. We got to take it. We have to light that jug. So that's my hope for myself and for all of us, that we can recognize that in these days, even though it is very dark, God is still with us in our days, and we just need to find our jugs and not to miss those opportunities and to put it on the menorah and to light them. Thank you.
Woo! Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Sam from Florida. Beautiful idea. Okay, we'll take it to our next speaker. I think all the way from Austria, I'm pretty sure. Hadassah Wendell. You like to share? Yeah, am I right?
Yeah, hi.
Okay.
Nice to see you. I missed the first part, so I hope this is not repetitive. But yeah, I'm also very glad to be here. And there's an interesting verse in Sefer Melachim in chapter 6, verse 4, and it's about how Shlomo HaMelech builds the temple, and it says that he also had some windows made, and the windows are described as shekufim atumim, and it's not very clear what that means. Rashi does explain them, and he says that shekufim atumim means that the windows of the temple were not like windows for today that light can come in, but the light can come out. So they were very narrow on the insides and very broad on the outside. And one of the reasons for that, or the main reason, is that Hashem was dwelling in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash, and he is the source of all light. So there's no need for any light to come inside the temple because Hashem is spreading out this light by himself. And in a similar vein, when we're lighting Chanukah candles, we mostly do them, most of us do that near our windows. And one of the reasons for that is Pirsum Hanes, to publicize the miracle, to have others also see this light. And that's, I think, a very interesting idea, because also now when we're sitting in our homes, we might be able to share some some light to others outside. And not just that, by lighting our candles, maybe also by thinking how I can contribute to this world. We can help others, but we can also find our own inner light. And yeah, that was it from me.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Hashtag spread the light. Hashtag spread the light. Love it. Okay. Next, we're gonna call on King Shimshon from South Africa to share some words of inspiration and the energy. Bring the energy. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Shkoyach, thank you so much. Chag Sameach, everybody. What a very special evening it is indeed. For us over here, it's the 4th night of Chanukah already. Wow, wow. I'd like to share with you an idea from the Kedushas Levi, Rav Levi Yitzchak Berdichev, the Sanigor Shal Yisrael, the protector of Israel. And he has an interesting way of understanding why is it that our most precious thing that we do in Chanukah, our candles, we don't get to use them. The one opinion says that you're not allowed to have any benefit from them at all. And the other opinion says, okay, you can. It's an argument in the Gemara in Shabbos, Rav versus Shmuel. And we obviously will go like, I think, Rav in this case, and we're not going to use them. But why is it? Rav Levi Yitzchak explains, and he says that, imagine that there was a king, and this king is coming to, guess what? He's coming to visit you. Now, there's 2 ways that you can deal with this. The first way is that you can have what we call a minor panic attack when he arrives. And you can see him there with all his grandeur. You can see the horse, the carriage, the crown, just like everything. And you can just be content with that. You can see that, and that's it. That's enough for you. Or there's another option. There's another way that you can do it. And that is when you see him, you don't get bothered by, or even, you don't even really notice his stuff. Okay, it's a nice thing. Okay, it's some nice clothes. Okay, it's the most glorious thing you've ever seen. But he's come to see you. He cares about you. And that's what gets you. So the Berdichev explains, that's what Chanukah is about, is that we don't get carried away with this kind of miracle that the oil happened, that the war, that God is able to make us win a war. Because God can do anything God wants. There's nothing so special about that. But what is special is that God wanted to get involved. That doesn't happen so much anymore. And that's what we are celebrating. We're celebrating that really God came back to this world for just a small moment. Just for those 8 days, once again, he was there, he was with us, and he was shining the light. And so I'd like to bless us all that we continue with our 25ers, that we go from strength to strength, and that we keep learning, and that please God, in the merit of that, we'll have Moshiach b'mheira v'yameinu.
Thank you, Shimshon. Love the energy as always. Okay, we'll take it to the south again of the United States in Georgia with Kazriel Witherspoon sharing some words of wisdom.
Hey everybody, Chanukah Sameach. Shabbat Tov V'Ruach. Sorry I wasn't on earlier. My apologies. I appreciate it. Chanukah is very interesting. The one of the original things about Chanukah that we have to realize and look at is that the intention of Chanukah is not the same as we practice today. When we look into Sefer Maccabee, the second book of Sefer Maccabee, it talks about the wars and the dynasties of the Hashmonaim. And we see that Chazal decided to change the intentions and the narrative and the focus of Chanukah. And the first thing in the book of Maccabees is that Chanukah was actually supposed to be a Tishlomin, a makeup of Sukkot. And this is what the second book of Maccabees say. But when we look at what Chanukah is about, we focus on the menorah, that Chanukah, bringing light into the world, bringing light into places of darkness. And I want to go back and I want to focus on the original thought of what Chanukah is, which is, we say inside of the Amidah when we daven, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped the weak and gave the strong into the hand of the weak, and the many into the hand of the few. And I think this is important because in the world that we live in today, a lot of people fall into social pressures, prayer pressures, and there's all the pressures of the majority, and they're coming in abundantly and forcing the weak to, or the small, to be on their side, to be in their position. The famous thing today is that most people, they want to go and they want to be a part of everything that to them is famous or that's popular. And sometimes the popular culture isn't the right culture. Sometimes the popular thoughts and the popular things that goes on in our societies isn't what we're really supposed to be involved into. I'm a part of an organization called Stand With Us, and we advertise for Israel and Zionism and stuff like that. And you go into a lot of college campuses, and almost everybody is anti-Zionistic. Everybody, some people, I'm not gonna say everybody, some people, most people are anti-Semitic without even realizing what's going on. And it's because of a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding of a lot of things and a lot of causes. And I think the main principle, the main idea of Hanukkah is to tell us, be proud of where you stand at in the world when you know that what you're standing for and what you're standing for is the right cause. Even when everybody else goes against you and you're the only one going against the grain, don't give up, because you can make a difference even when you're the minority. The minority voice, the small person, the person who is not there, usually is the person that makes the differences in life. You look at every group that made a real difference in the world, they started out by being the odd one out, the square, the one who everybody's like, it's not going to be successful. Everybody's doing this, and you're the one who says, I'm going to stand up. And that's what it really means to be a light. That in the places where everybody's going in the same direction, you stand out because of who you are. And so I pray, and I ask that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us and continually give us the strength to stand up and to stand out for who we are. And don't be ashamed, because everybody's going in one direction and we go in a different direction. Chanukah Sameach and Shavua Tov U'V'Vuah.
Wow, that was awesome. I'm feeling inspired. Thanks, Real. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we will now take it to Poland, to Abraham Heyman to share some words with us. I'm very excited to have you here today.
Hi, guys. I'll say a bit of a Hasidically inspired story, although I'm probably the least Hasidic person here. I got it from my good friend who is more Hasidically inclined than I am. So everybody speaks on Chanukah about the nest, the miracle that happened, and we talk about it, and we know that it's obviously, they found this one can of oil, and they lit it, and that was it, right? So, but honestly, if you look at halakha, there is no point of lighting, doing anything in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, when everything and everybody was impure. So why would they even bother with doing it? So here you can, obviously the first question you could ask is, what was the hechsher of this oil? Because they say it's so kosher of the kosher, but let's leave that for a different discussion. So the question is, why would they bother with it? So if you look, the holiday of Chanukah is a rabbinical holiday. It's not deoraita. And with deoraita, all the Jews are always like, oh yeah, so it's deoraita. Okay, maybe I'll do it. I'll try to skim it. I'll try to do it around and all that. But with these simple rabbinical holidays, we always like, it's Purim and Chanukah, right? So we always try to, even if you're not religious, even if you don't care or don't know about anything, you still incorporate it somehow in your life. And that's exactly the gdula, the strength and the bigness of the Jewish, I wouldn't say nation, but of the Jewish people. That even in the tiniest details, we always try to bring out the best, and we always focus on them and we make them the main event. So this ties back to this project, actually, the 25ers. Because if you think about it, we're learning for 25 minutes. It's barely any time of your day. It's 25 minutes a week. It's like it's nothing technically, but we still do this effort, and out of this comes out all of the light that will hopefully shine for the rest of the year with us. Actually, tying back to this to Chanukah, if we're speaking, because I'm from Poland, and the story of the Holocaust is strong here. I would like to share with you a little picture that actually was taken in Kiel, a city in Germany, in 1936, when the Nazi regime was already there in power. Wait a second, technical. I'm checking if I can share it. Photos. And that's it. Perfect. Okay. Tell me if you see the picture. Yes. Perfect. I think you can see it now. So you can see that it's a Chanukah, and it's in the background there. You can see a Nazi flag. So this picture was actually taken by the wife of Rabbi Akiva Posner, and this small picture actually is like the exact proof of what I'm saying with my story, that these little things and this little spark of Judaism that we bring out through these little small things, each little Jew has the Pinteleid in him. And this exactly is, look at, they tried to kill us. They had a whole system set up. They had like political power. They occupied all of Europe. They killed 6 million of us. God forbid it happens again. And we still are here today celebrating worldwide with all of our friends here on the amazing platform of Zoom and in the great program of 25 for 25ers. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this really geschmack project.
Awesome. I'm so impressed. I didn't know all you guys would be so good. Everyone's speaking like they're professional speakers. They like speak worldwide. That's amazing. You guys are awesome. Okay, for our last speaker, representing, I guess, the 8th night, Beyond Nature. We'll ask Tyler Schwartz to share us, to connect back to our inner child's a little 4th grade lesson, but we'll take it and we'll apply it to ourselves with a lot of light. Tyler Schwartz, University of Illinois.
Yeah, so this, I just taught some 4th graders for Sunday school. So it's going to be a little bit different than I taught them, obviously. I had all of their parents, but they went to class. The grades that we'll give is that when, in the Hanukkah story, we would want to be studying Torah, we weren't allowed to study Torah. So they would see the Greeks coming or hear the Greeks coming or something, and they would hide all the Sfarim and start just spinning a top. Like, oh no, we're not studying Torah or anything. We're just playing this simple game here. So some of the 4th graders, aren't so into Sunday school. Like even the first day of class, they got there, and the first thing they said after I said hi to them was, "When does this end? Like, when can we go?" So I tried to get across that it can be fun, and we do a game every time we meet. And this time our game was we would we read a summary. I said, the Greeks are coming. We would stop and spin the dreidels. And then, it was a sort of interesting summary, and we talked about it a bit, and it got the point across that, just spinning a dreidel, it can be fun if you're playing a game of dreidel, but the part that we really want to do is learning. And so it's a good thing to be able to learn, and we all have to look at the times when we don't want to learn and see that people way back then, they weren't allowed to learn, but they still learned anyways, and they had to cover it up with other things. So I think that's just something to look at our learning, and anytime that we feel like we are not motivated in any ways, to think back to when they had to learn and have a plan for if someone came to say, like, you're not allowed to do this, like you're going to be arrested or whatever happened, at least we don't have to deal with that, and we can learn for 25 minutes or however long you learn with your 25er or whoever else you learn with. And I hope this worked for a lot older and more mature audience.
Totally. The message is applicable to everybody. Thank you, Todd, for sharing. We get to learn. Don't have to, get to. Okay, awesome. Beautiful. Okay, so we'll end off now with one of my favorite Hanukkah stories, and we'll call it a day, but we'll see everybody out throughout the project. But this story is actually a true story, and I heard it from the person who heard it from another person who heard it from the person who knew about the actual story. So the story goes like this. There was a Yerushalmi Jew, a Jew from Jerusalem, that was, he ran a lot of projects and he wanted to fundraise for his project. So I don't know how he ended up in Italy, but he ended up in Italy. We actually have a couple of people from Rome in the project. They didn't make it this one. They're on the last event, but I thought maybe they'd be here. It'd be cool. But he ended up in Italy, and he was looking for a place to stay for Shabbos because he had nowhere to go. He didn't know anybody there. So he gets to like the port, and he clearly looks at a place. He looks like he's from Jerusalem, and some guy, like a well-dressed like businessman, comes up to him and says the classic Jewish greeting of Shalom Aleichem. And he says, "You look like you just came out of Jerusalem." And he's like, "Well, I did just come out of Jerusalem." And he's like, "Well, where are you staying for Shabbos?" And he said, "I don't know. I'm looking for a place. I'm looking for somewhere to stay." He says, "You can come with me." So this successful businessman looking guy comes and brings this Jerusalem Jew to his house for Shabbos. And it's like a huge mansion, like crazy, decked out. He walks in like the beautiful like paintings and tapestries, and the shades even look nice, and there's so many fancy gold, silver, and he spends his Shabbos there, and it's like an incredible Shabbos. He's sitting around the table, like all the kids are singing Zmiros, and they're sharing Torah around the table. It's like one of the most beautiful Shabbos meals he's ever been. And he's checking out all the nice stuff in the cutlery and the china, and he notices he's like sitting like in the middle of the table opposite the china cabinet, and he's like looking at all the nice things, and all of a sudden, like right in the center, he sees this like broken flask of glass, and he's like, that seems really out of place. Like everything looks beautiful, and then there's this broken glass flask right in the middle. And you think maybe, I don't know, maybe broken is the new fancy, like maybe that this is like really nice, but something's out of place, and he's trying to ignore it throughout the meal, but he keeps coming back to this broken piece of glass. And eventually he like musters up the courage to ask the host, like, what's the deal with this broken piece of glass as your centerpiece? And he's like, listen, I don't mean to like impinge on your private, but I can't stop looking at this broken piece of glass. What is that? What's going on? Why is that your centerpiece? So the guy smiles and he says, okay, I'll tell you the story. So he says, I was a young man. I was living in Amsterdam from a very prestigious family. And I had a grandfather that lived in Italy, and he had a business, and he was starting to get really sick. So they sent me over for just a couple months just to help the business get underway while my grandfather was sick. And I went there and started getting the business, helping it out. And then after a couple months, my grandfather died. So my parents thought, okay, I'd sell the business and I'd make my way back to Amsterdam. But I started getting into the Italian vibes. I was getting the culture. It was nice. And the business started flowing, and we were making a ton of cash. So I'm like, parents, I got this. I'm gonna chill here for a little bit. And don't worry about it. And the business was flowing, and he was becoming rich. And he says, I remember the first time I stopped praying. I remember the first mincha minyan that I missed. And then after that, I remember I just all went downhill from there. And Shabbat, Shabbos, that went too. And keeping kosher, that went also. And all of a sudden I realized I was living my life with no Judaism at all. I was a totally different person. I just created a new life for myself. And I happened to marry a Jewish woman just by chance. But we kind of went on with our life as is. One day after a successful day in business, I was walking, and I see this kid like uncontrollably crying. And my heart like went out to me. I went over to him and I said, little kid, like, why are you crying? What's going on? And I couldn't stop him. And he kept saying over and over again, like, what am I going to tell my father? What am I going to tell my father? And he was crying. I couldn't stop him. Finally, I calmed him down enough to explain to him what is going on. And he said, he points down to the ground, and on the concrete, there's a broken glass flask of oil. And he says, our family is very poor. And each year we save up like pennies. We save up money to buy a flask of oil. My dad is very he wants to do the mitzvah of lighting the Chanukah candles, and we save up the whole year. And every year he goes to buy it. But I'm like 9 years old this year, and I convinced my dad. I said, Dad, please let me go and let me buy the flask this year. Let me buy the oil this year. And he's like, I don't know. I don't think we should do it. I don't know if I could trust you. You know, we save up the whole year for this. I don't know if I could trust you. And I convinced him and finally said, okay, if you promise you'll be very, very careful and I'll let you go. So I went to the store and I bought the oil, and I met up with some friends, and they were cracking some jokes. And one of them was really funny. And all of a sudden, I tripped a little, I slipped, and it's broken. And now I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to tell my father. He's going to kill me. We saved the whole year. So the businessman says, don't worry, you're in good hands. He grabs him by the hand. I'll take you back to the store. And he buys him even bigger, beautiful flask of oil. The kid goes home. He's so happy. And this man feels good. I just did such a nice thing. But as he's walking home, in his head, he keeps hearing the words over and over again. What am I going to tell my father? What am I going to tell my father? What am I going to tell my father? And he starts to think to himself, and he asks himself the same question. What am I going to tell my father in heaven? What am I going to tell him? I've left everything. I've left all my Judaism just for a little bit of business, a little bit of Italian culture. What am I going to tell my father? And he couldn't get it out of his head. So he walked back to that place where the broken flask of oil was, and he picked it up, and he went back to his house, and he gathered his family around. He said, guys, I know we don't usually speak about this, but tonight's actually the first night of Chanukah, and we're going to light a candle. And this is what the Jewish people do for all around the world. And he took the little bit of oil left in the flask, and he lit Chanukah candles that first night. And then he lit the second night, and the third night, and the fourth night, all the way to 8 nights. And after that, he slowly and started to come back. And now he says to this guy, this Yerushalmi Jew, this Jew from Jerusalem across the table, you see my family now? You see our beautiful Shabbos table? That all is due to that flask. And you see, I have a lot of nice stuff in my house, but nothing is worth more to me than that flask of oil, which helped me return back. And that's why it's at the center of my Chanukah heaven. So that's really the message of Chanukah, of finding that little oil, but also finding that little bit of oil that's left within inside of us. Oil, as I do sometimes, I teach some clubs in Portland public schools, and I show them that if you put oil inside of water, oil automatically rises to the top. Also, no matter which way you hold fire, maybe not on my glasses, but in real fire, no matter which way you hold it, it always points up. There's always that little spark of fire. Something Abraham was talking about, a little bit of oil that represents us. And no matter what, we can always rise back to the top and always come closer. So that's the story. That's the message. I thank everybody for coming to this little Chanukah event we have here. It was really amazing to connect with Jews from all around the world this Chanukah. I don't know if it's been done in this way. And we look forward to seeing everybody throughout the project, hearing back your feedback. So far, it's been amazing. Today's the last day to fill out the form for the raffle for week 2. And I look forward to hearing from everybody and seeing you on our next event. Shira just closes us out with a little bit of Zusha Chanukah music again, and maybe a message.
Honestly, no, I do have a thought to share, but I'm just like so moved. Jacob, that was a beautiful story. Everyone, like I know that we have. Wow, I'm just extremely moved. This was stunning. My quick idea is just that Judaism is not a peak experience. This was a peak experience. This was beautiful and meaningful, and we're all so inspired and happy. But this is the opposite. Judaism is not a peak experience. We come back every single week. We do our 25 minutes. You do week 1, you do week 2. You don't just come one day and learn, and then you've learned all of the Torah. You don't just talk to your friend about something meaningful and that's it, and you're suddenly a great Jew. It's that you come back day after day after day, the same way that we come back day after day after day with Chanukah, that we don't just start off the first day with all of our Chanukiah lit. Of course, there's machloket or whether or not we start with the full light, but we like just one at a time. It just takes grit, perseverance, coming back day after day after day. And I also think that's also the story of Chanukah, that we are small people, but we put in small amounts of work, and it ends up being a beautiful big thing. And I'm just so grateful to know all of you and to have experienced this with you. And now some Zusha as we close out. Chanukah Sameach, everyone.